Aisha's hands trembled as she held the divorce papers, her vision blurring with unshed tears. The elegant dining room of their mansion suddenly felt cold and empty, despite the expensive furniture and artwork that surrounded her. Her husband of 7 years, billionaire tech mogul Marcus Reynolds, stood across from her, his face a mask of indifference. The man who had once promised to love her forever now couldn't even look her in the eyes. So this is it? 7 years of marriage thrown away just like that? Aisha's voice cracked as she placed the papers on the polished mahogany table. Marcus finally looked at her, his blue eyes cold. We both know things haven't been working for a long time, Aisha. This is for the best. And the reason? She asked, though she already knew the answer. It had been hanging in the air between them for months, unspoken but ever present. Marcus hesitated, then spoke with brutal honesty. You've changed. You're not the woman I married. The words cut through Aisha like a knife. Over the past 3 years, she had gained considerable weight due to a combination of stress, a thyroid condition, and comfort eating after 2 painful miscarriages. Her once slim figure had expanded, and with each pound gained, Marcus had grown more distant. You mean I'm too fat for you now? Aisha said plainly, refusing to dance around the truth any longer. You can't bear to be seen with me anymore. Marcus didn't deny it. Image is important in my position, Aisha. You know that. My partners, my investors, they expect a certain presentation. A trophy wife, she supplied bitterly. That's not fair. Isn't it? Aisha stood up straighter, her 5 feet 8 inches frame carrying her 240 pounds with as much dignity as she could muster. You didn't marry me for who I am. You married me for how I look. And now that I don't fit your ideal image anymore, you're throwing me away. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. I'm being generous with the settlement. You'll want for nothing. Aisha laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in the large room. Accept love. Accept respect. Accept the family we plan to build together. People change, Aisha. Feelings change. No, Marcus. People show their true colors eventually. And yours are showing crystal clear right now. She pushed the divorce papers back across the table toward him, unread and unsigned. I'm not signing these today. You owe me at least the courtesy of thinking about this for a week. 7 years deserves at least 7 days of consideration, don't you think? Marcus looked like he wanted to object, but something in Aisha's steady gaze stopped him. Fine. 1 week. But my mind is made up. Aisha nodded, gathering her dignity around her like armor. So is mine. As she walked out of the dining room, her heart pounding in her chest, Aisha made a silent vow to herself. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Marcus Reynolds had no idea what was coming. Upstairs in their bedroom, a room Marcus had stopped sharing with her months ago, Aisha looked at herself in the full-length mirror. She saw the extra weight on her body, the roundness of her face, the stretch marks on her belly. But she also saw the intelligence in her brown eyes, the determination in her jaw, and the strength that had always been there, even when she was thin. Marcus had loved her once. She knew he had. Before the billions, before the fame, when they were just 2 ambitious young people starting out in life. Somewhere under all that success and pride, that man still existed. And Aisha was going to find him. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she'd been holding onto for weeks but hadn't had the courage to call until now. Dr. Patel? This is Aisha Reynolds. I think I'm ready for that consultation we discussed. On the other end of the line, the doctor's voice was warm and encouraging. I'm glad to hear from you, Mrs. Reynolds. When would you like to come in? Aisha took a deep breath. Today. Right now, if possible. For you? I'll make it possible. See you in an hour. Aisha hung up and looked at herself in the mirror once more. 1 week, she said to her reflection. 1 week to save my marriage? Or to realize it's not worth saving? With one last look at the bedroom she had shared with Marcus, Aisha grabbed her purse and car keys. Outside, the California sun was shining brightly, a perfect day for new beginnings. As she slid into her Mercedes, a gift from Marcus on their 5th anniversary, she couldn't help but wonder if she was making the right choice. But she was out of options and out of time. Marcus had made his ultimatum clear. It was now or never. As she drove away from their Bel Air mansion, Aisha's mind raced with possibilities. Dr. Patel had promised a revolutionary approach, something that could change everything. It was risky, expensive, and there were no guarantees. But what did she have to lose now? The traffic on Sunset Boulevard moved slowly, giving Aisha time to think. She remembered the day she and Marcus met at a charity gala in New York. She had been working as an event coordinator, and he was an up-and-coming tech entrepreneur, not yet the billionaire he would become. He had been drawn to her instantly, pursuing her with a determination that had swept her off her feet. They had been happy once, truly happy. Building dreams together, talking late into the night about the family they would have, the life they would build. Then came success beyond their wildest dreams when Marcus's company went public. Suddenly, they were thrust into a world of wealth and privilege that neither of them had been prepared for. The pressure to fit in, to look the part of a billionaire's wife, had been immense. Aisha had managed it at first, enjoying the designer clothes and the glamorous parties. But after the miscarriages, something had broken inside her. Food became comfort, and her changing body became a reflection of her pain. And Marcus, instead of supporting her through her grief, had grown increasingly critical and distant. His disappointment in her appearance was a constant presence, even when unspoken. As Aisha pulled into the private clinic's parking lot, she took a moment to compose herself. Whatever happened next would change her life forever. She just hoped she was making the right decision for the right reasons. With one final deep breath, she stepped out of the car and walked toward the clinic's discreet entrance, leaving behind the woman she had been and moving toward an uncertain future. Dr. Patel's clinic was a haven of luxury and discretion, tucked away in a quiet corner of Beverly Hills. The waiting room looked more like an exclusive spa than a medical facility, with its plush seating, ambient lighting, and soft music. Aisha had been here once before for an initial consultation, but had left without committing to anything. Now she was back with purpose. "Mrs. Reynolds, welcome back," Dr. Patel greeted her warmly, ushering her into a private consultation room. The doctor was a petite woman with intelligent eyes and a calming presence. "I understand the urgency of your situation has changed." Aisha nodded, settling into the comfortable chair across from the doctor's desk. "My husband has asked for a divorce. He's given me a week to sign the papers." Dr. Patel's expression was sympathetic but not pitying. "And you believe my treatment will save your marriage?" "I don't know," Aisha admitted honestly. "Maybe nothing can save it at this point, but I want to try. Not just for him but for me. I want to feel good about myself again." The doctor nodded approvingly. "That's the right mindset. Tell me, Mrs. Reynolds, have you considered the risks we discussed during your first visit? This procedure is revolutionary, but it's not without potential complications." Aisha had indeed thought about them. Dr. Patel's treatment was a combination of cutting-edge metabolic therapy, precision medication, and a technology the doctor had developed herself, a cellular regeneration process that claimed to not only remove fat but tighten skin and build muscle simultaneously. It promised results in days rather than months, but it had only been performed on a handful of patients. "I understand the risks," Aisha said firmly, "and I'm prepared to take them." Dr. Patel studied her for a long moment. "This isn't about your husband, is it?" "Not really." Aisha felt tears welling up in her eyes. "It's about me. About taking back control of my life. Marcus's rejection was just the final push I needed." The doctor smiled. "Then let's proceed. I'll need to run some final tests today to customize the treatment for your specific body chemistry. We can begin the procedure tomorrow morning." "So quickly? You said you have 1 week, correct?" "The treatment itself takes 3 days, followed by 2 days of rest and adjustment. That gives you 2 days to make your decision about the divorce papers." Aisha felt a flutter of anxiety in her stomach. "And the cost?" Dr. Patel named a figure that would have shocked most people, but Aisha had expected it. She had access to her own substantial funds, money she had earned before marrying Marcus and investments that had grown considerably over the years. This would make a significant dent in those savings, but it would be worth it. "I'll need you to stay here at the clinic for the full 5 days, Dr. Patel continued. "We have private suites for patients. Comfortable with all amenities. You'll be monitored round the clock." "My husband won't know where I am," Aisha realized aloud. "Is that a problem?" Aisha thought about it. Marcus had been sleeping in one of the guest rooms for months now. They barely spoke except when necessary. Would he even notice her absence? "No," she said finally. "It's not a problem." The next few hours were filled with blood tests, body scans, and detailed discussions about what to expect. By late afternoon, Aisha had signed all the necessary forms and was shown to her suite at the clinic. A spacious room with a comfortable bed, a sitting area, and large windows overlooking a private garden. As she unpacked the small bag she had brought with her, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Where are you? We need to discuss the divorce settlement." Aisha stared at the message, feeling a surge of anger. Not, "Are you okay?" or "When will you be home?" Just business, cold and impersonal. She typed back, taking some time for myself. We'll be back before the week is up to give you my decision. His response came quickly, "This isn't optional, Aisha." She didn't reply. Instead, she turned off her phone and placed it in the drawer of the bedside table. For the next 5 days she would focus only on herself and this transformation she was about to undergo. That evening, as she sat in her suite eating the carefully balanced meal provided by the clinic, Aisha found herself wondering about the future. What if the treatment worked exactly as promised? What if she returned home looking like the woman Marcus had fallen in love with? Or even better, would it really change anything? Their problems went deeper than her weight. The man who truly loved her would have supported her through the miscarriages, would have helped her fight her depression and health issues instead of withdrawing his affection when she needed it most. A part of her wanted to walk away right now, to tell Marcus he could have his divorce and good riddance. But another part, the part that remembered the good times, the love they had shared, wasn't ready to give up. As night fell, Aisha prepared for bed, following the pre-procedure instructions she had been given. Tomorrow everything would change. She just wasn't sure yet if it would be for better or worse. In the darkness of her suite, Aisha closed her eyes and tried to picture the woman she would be in 5 days' time. Physically transformed, yes, but hopefully stronger in spirit as well. Whether she ended up with or without Marcus, she was determined to emerge from this experience with a clearer sense of her own worth. With that thought comforting her, Aisha drifted off to sleep, unaware of the remarkable journey that awaited her. The morning light filtered through the curtains of Aisha's suite, waking her gently. For a moment, she forgot where she was, reaching instinctively for Marcus before remembering that he hadn't slept beside her in months. And now, she was in Dr. Patel's clinic, about to undergo a procedure that would change her life one way or another. A soft knock at the door announced the arrival of a nurse, who brought in a light breakfast and a series of medications to prepare Aisha's body for what was to come. "Dr. Patel will be in to see you in about an hour," the nurse explained kindly. "After that, we'll begin the first phase of the treatment." Aisha nodded, suddenly nervous. The reality of what she was about to do was hitting her full force. This wasn't just a diet or exercise plan. This was a radical medical intervention with no guarantees of success. As promised, Dr. Patel arrived an hour later, her calm presence instantly reassuring. "How are you feeling this morning, Mrs. Reynolds?" she asked, taking a seat across from Aisha. "Nervous," Aisha admitted. "Having second thoughts, if I'm being honest." Dr. Patel nodded understandingly. "That's completely normal. This is a significant step. Would you like me to go through the process once more?" "Please." "The treatment has 3 phases," the doctor explained patiently. "Today we begin with metabolic reprogramming. Using a combination of medications and controlled electrical stimulation, we'll essentially reset your body's metabolic rate and the way it processes nutrients." Aisha swallowed hard. "And the risks?" "The main risk in phase 1 is a temporary drop in blood pressure and possible arrhythmia, which is why you'll be monitored constantly. But the medications we've custom formulated based on your blood work should minimize those risks significantly." "And phase 2? "Tomorrow we begin the cellular regeneration process. A series of injections will target fat cells while simultaneously promoting skin elasticity and muscle tone. This is the most revolutionary aspect of the treatment and the one that produces the most dramatic results." "And the most risks," Aisha added, remembering their previous discussion. Dr. Patel didn't deny it. "Yes. There's a small chance of an adverse reaction to the regeneration compound. But we've refined the formula considerably since our early trials, and with the personalization we've done for you, I'm confident the risks are minimal." "And the final phase?" "On day 3, we complete the transformation with focused ultrasound therapy to sculpt specific areas and a final round of metabolic stabilizers to help your body adjust to its new state." Aisha took a deep breath. "And after that?" 2 days of rest and recovery here at the clinic. Your body will be going through remarkable changes, and you'll need time to adjust both physically and mentally." Aisha nodded, processing all of this information again. It sounded like science fiction, yet here she was, about to experience it firsthand. "One more question," she said hesitantly. "Why me? Why offer this treatment to me when it's still so experimental?" Dr. Patel smiled. "Because you're an ideal candidate, Mrs. Reynolds. Your weight gain was relatively recent and linked to specific medical and emotional factors. Your overall health is excellent despite the extra pounds. And frankly, you have the financial resources to afford this treatment while we continue to refine it for wider availability." It made sense, but Aisha couldn't help feeling like a guinea pig. Still, she had come this far. "I'm ready," she said with more confidence than she felt. What followed was a day unlike any Aisha had ever experienced. The first phase of treatment took place in a room that looked like a cross between a high-tech medical facility and a luxury spa. She was connected to various monitors, given a series of injections, and then placed in what Dr. Patel called a metabolic chamber, a pod-like device that controlled temperature, oxygen levels, and delivered precisely calibrated electrical stimulation to specific parts of her body. The sensations were strange but not painful, tingling, warmth, occasional muscle contractions that she couldn't control. Throughout it all, Dr. Patel or one of her nurses was always present, constantly checking Aisha's vital signs and adjusting the treatment as needed. By evening, Aisha was exhausted but oddly energized at the same time. Her body felt different somehow, lighter, more responsive, though physically she looked much the same. The changes are happening at a cellular level right now, Dr. Patel explained during her evening check-in. You won't see visual results until after tomorrow's treatment. How are you feeling? Hungry, Aisha admitted with a small laugh. But not in the way I'm used to. It's different. That's your metabolism beginning to reset. The meal plan we've provided is precisely calibrated to work with the treatment. It's essential that you eat exactly what we give you when we give it to you. The food, while carefully measured, was delicious and satisfying. Aisha found herself enjoying the simple, clean flavors, free from the emotional baggage that eating had carried for her in recent years. As she prepared for bed that night, Aisha caught sight of herself in the bathroom mirror. Outwardly, nothing had changed yet, but something in her eyes was different. A spark of hope, of determination, that had been missing for too long. She thought about Marcus, wondering if he had noticed her absence beyond the inconvenience it caused him. Had he called any of their friends looking for her? Was he worried at all? Or was he simply annoyed that she wasn't there to sign his papers on demand? For the first time, Aisha realized that part of her didn't care what Marcus thought. This journey she had undertaken, as crazy and risky as it might be, was for herself first and foremost. With that unexpectedly liberating thought, she climbed into bed and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep, her body hard at work transforming itself from the inside out. Day 2 of the treatment dawned with an unexpected revelation. When Aisha looked in the mirror during her morning bathroom routine, she gasped in surprise. Already, there were noticeable changes in her appearance. Her face looked slimmer, the puffiness around her eyes gone, and her skin had a healthy glow that had been missing for years. When Dr. Patel arrived for her morning examination, she smiled at Aisha's reaction. The first phase worked even better than expected. Your body responded exceptionally well to the metabolic reset. I can see differences already, Aisha said, still amazed. Today's phase will accelerate those changes dramatically, Dr. Patel explained. Are you ready? Aisha nodded, her determination stronger than ever. The second phase of treatment was more intense than the first. It began with a series of injections, targeted at specific areas of her body where fat had accumulated most stubbornly. The solution burned slightly as it entered her system, causing her to wince. Sorry about that, Dr. Patel said sympathetically. The regeneration compound can be uncomfortable initially, but the sensation will pass quickly. After the injections came another session in the metabolic chamber, this time with additional equipment attached to stimulate muscle groups throughout her body. It felt like the most intense workout of her life, yet Aisha was lying perfectly still, the machines doing all the work. Midway through the day, Aisha experienced a wave of nausea and dizziness. One of the potential side effects Dr. Patel had warned her about. The treatment was paused temporarily while the medical team stabilized her symptoms. It was a frightening hour, but once it passed, the treatment resumed without further complications. By evening, the changes were unmistakable. Aisha's clothes hung loosely on her frame, and when she stepped on the scale in her bathroom, she was stunned to see she had already lost 15 pounds. But it wasn't just weight loss. Her body was changing shape, with more definition in her arms and legs, and her skin remaining remarkably tight despite the rapid changes. How is this possible? She asked Dr. Patel during the evening checkup. The regeneration compound is breaking down fat cells while simultaneously promoting muscle development and skin elasticity, the doctor explained. It's working essentially as a targeted sculptor, redistributing your body's resources in a more efficient pattern. It seems like magic, Aisha said, still finding it hard to believe. Dr. Patel smiled. Not magic, Mrs. Reynolds. Just very advanced science. But remember, tomorrow's final phase is crucial for stabilizing these changes and ensuring they last. That night, Aisha slept fitfully, her body humming with activity as the regeneration compound continued its work. She dreamed of Marcus, of the day they met, of the love that had once seemed so unshakable. In her dreams she kept trying to speak to him, to make him see her, really see her. But he looked through her as if she wasn't there. She woke in the early hours, sheets damp with sweat, her heart racing. The digital clock by her bed read 3:17 a.m. Too restless to go back to sleep, she carefully got out of bed and was immediately struck by how different her body felt. Lighter, more balanced, as if she was occupying a different physical space than before. In the bathroom, she turned on the light and nearly cried out in shock when she saw her reflection. The transformation was progressing at an astonishing rate. Her face was clearly defined now, cheekbones prominent, jawline firm. Her neck was elegant, shoulders more sculpted. Lifting her nightgown, she saw that her waist had narrowed significantly, while her natural curves remained in perfect proportion. It was like looking at a version of herself from years ago. Before the miscarriages, before the depression, before the weight gain, but somehow better. More refined. More powerful. Aisha's hands trembled as she touched her face, her neck, her stomach, confirming that what she was seeing was real. This was her body, transformed almost overnight. A thought struck her then, cutting through her amazement. Would this be enough for Marcus? Would this physical transformation be all it took to make him love her again? And hard on the heels of that thought came another, more disturbing one. If it was, what did that say about his love? About what their marriage truly meant? She returned to bed unsettled, these questions echoing in her mind as she finally drifted back to sleep. Morning came with the realization that today would bring the final phase of Dr. Patel's revolutionary treatment. As Aisha prepared for the day, she found herself both excited and apprehensive. The physical transformation was already remarkable, but the emotional landscape she was navigating felt increasingly complex. When Dr. Patel arrived, she was clearly pleased with the results. "Your response to the treatment has exceeded our most optimistic projections," she said, reviewing the latest measurements and test results. "Today's final phase should complete the physical transformation beautifully." Aisha nodded, but her enthusiasm was tempered by the questions that had plagued her during the night. "Dr. Patel," she began hesitantly, "can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Do you think changing my appearance like this will save my marriage?" Dr. Patel's expression turned serious. "That's not a medical question, Mrs. Reynolds. And I think you already know the answer." Aisha nodded slowly. "I think I do. But I'm going to see this through anyway." "For yourself," Dr. Patel reminded her gently. "For myself," Aisha agreed, straightening her shoulders. "Let's finish what we started." The third day of treatment began with a sense of culmination. As Aisha was prepared for the final phase, she felt a strange mix of emotions: excitement about the transformation that was nearly complete, anxiety about what would come after, and a growing uncertainty about her marriage that she couldn't quite shake. Today's procedures were less invasive but no less important. The focus was on fine-tuning and stabilizing the dramatic changes her body had undergone in the past 48 hours. "Today is about making the changes permanent," Dr. Patel explained as her team prepared the ultrasound equipment. "The metabolic reprogramming and cellular regeneration have done their work. Now we need to ensure your body recognizes this new state as its natural baseline." The ultrasound therapy was surprisingly relaxing, a gentle warmth moving over her body in precise patterns. It was followed by a final round of injections, stabilizers, Dr. Patel called them, and a shorter session in the metabolic chamber. By midday, Aisha was free to rest in her suite, the active part of the treatment complete. Looking in the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. She had lost nearly 40 pounds in 3 days, but that simple number didn't begin to describe the changes. Her body was perfectly proportioned, with curves in all the right places, firm muscle tone, and skin that glowed with health. She looked like the best version of herself, the woman she might have been if life hadn't thrown its challenges at her. But as she studied her reflection, Aisha realized something important. This wasn't about returning to her former self or becoming someone new. This was still her, Aisha Reynolds, just in a different physical form. The experiences that had shaped her life, the miscarriages, the depression, the struggles with her weight, they were still part of her story. The treatment had changed her body, but her heart, her mind, her soul remained the same. Would Marcus see that? Or would he only see the surface changes? As evening approached, Aisha decided it was time to reach out to her husband. 5 days had passed since she'd left home with no explanation beyond her brief text message. Part of her was curious about his reaction to her absence. She retrieved her phone from the drawer where it had remained untouched since her arrival at the clinic. Powering it on, she was immediately bombarded with notifications. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails. To her surprise, many were from Marcus, growing increasingly concerned as the days passed. The most recent, from just 2 hours ago, read, "Aisha, please. Just let me know you're safe. We can talk about everything else later." The concern in his messages was unexpected. Aisha had assumed he would be annoyed by her disappearance, perhaps even relieved to have her out of the house. But these messages suggested something else. She typed a simple response, "I'm safe. I'll be home tomorrow evening. We can talk then." His reply came almost instantly, "Thank God. I've been worried sick. Where are you?" Aisha hesitated before responding, "Somewhere I needed to be. I'll explain everything tomorrow." There was a long pause before his next message, "I'll be waiting." Aisha put down her phone, her heart racing. There had been genuine relief in his messages, genuine concern. Maybe there was still something there to salvage after all. That night, Aisha slept deeply, her body continuing its final adjustments as the treatment completed its work. She dreamed of standing at a crossroads, multiple paths stretching out before her. One led back to Marcus, another away from him toward an unknown future. In the dream, she stood paralyzed by indecision, unable to choose. She woke on the morning of the fourth day feeling rested but pensive. Today and tomorrow were meant for recovery and adjustment. Time for her body to settle into its new reality and for her mind to catch up with the dramatic changes. Dr. Patel's examination confirmed that the treatment had been a complete success. "Physically, you've achieved optimal results," she told Aisha. "Your metabolic rate has stabilized at an efficient level, the regeneration compound has completed its work, and all your vital signs are excellent." "What happens now?" Aisha asked. "Now you adjust to your new physical reality," Dr. Patel said. "But more importantly, you need to consider the emotional and psychological aspects of this transformation. Changes this dramatic can affect how you see yourself and how others respond to you." Aisha nodded. "I've been thinking about that a lot." "And your husband?" Dr. Patel asked gently. "Have you decided what you want from your marriage?" It was the question Aisha had been avoiding, even in her own thoughts. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "Part of me wants to believe that seeing me like this will remind him of why he fell in love with me in the first place. But another part knows that if his love is conditional on your appearance, it may not be the kind of love you truly want," Dr. Patel finished for her. "Exactly." Aisha looked down at her hands, noticing how even they seemed more elegant now, her wedding ring spinning loosely around her slimmer finger. "I've been thinking about the divorce papers. About whether I should sign them regardless of his reaction to my transformation." Dr. Patel's voice was kind but firm. "That's a decision only you can make, Mrs. Reynolds. But remember why you came here in the first place. Not just to save your marriage but to reclaim yourself." Aisha spent the rest of the day in quiet contemplation, walking in the clinic's private garden, eating meals that now satisfied her in ways food hadn't for years, and thinking deeply about the choice that awaited her. By the time evening came, she still hadn't reached a clear decision. But she had gained a sense of peace about facing whatever came next. The woman who would return to Marcus Reynolds tomorrow was not the same one who had left 5 days ago, and the difference went far beyond her physical appearance. On the fifth and final day at the clinic, Aisha prepared for her return home. She packed her few belongings and had a final consultation with Dr. Patel, who provided detailed instructions for maintaining her new metabolic balance and physical condition. "Your body has undergone a remarkable transformation," Dr. Patel reminded her. "But maintaining these results will require some effort on your part. Nothing extreme, just sensible eating habits, regular physical activity, and the supplements I've prescribed." Aisha nodded, taking the information sheet and bottles of specialized supplements. "I understand. And I want you to know how grateful I am, Dr. Patel. Not just for the physical transformation but for giving me the time and space to think clearly about my life." Dr. Patel smiled warmly. "That may be the most important part of the treatment, Mrs. Reynolds. Now, one last thing, I've taken the liberty of having some new clothes delivered for you. Your old ones won't fit properly anymore." The clothes were elegant but simple, well-fitting jeans, blouses, a dress and a light jacket, all in Aisha's preferred styles but sized for her new body. There was even a complete outfit for her return home, a sophisticated navy blue dress that hugged her new curves perfectly without being overly revealing. As Aisha changed into the new dress, she marveled again at her transformed body. The woman in the mirror looked confident, elegant, powerful. Everything she had once been and now was again, but with an added dimension of maturity and wisdom that came from her experiences. By mid-afternoon she was ready to leave. Dr. Patel personally walked her to the clinic's entrance, where a car was waiting to take her home. "Remember," the doctor said as they said their goodbyes, "whatever happens with your husband, this journey was for you." Aisha nodded, suddenly emotional. "I won't forget." The drive back to Bel Air gave Aisha time to prepare herself mentally for the coming confrontation. She had texted Marcus earlier to let him know she would be home by dinner time, but hadn't said anything more about where she'd been or what changes awaited him. As the car approached the gates of their mansion, Aisha felt her heart racing. 5 days ago she had left this house devastated by Marcus's rejection and ultimatum. Now she was returning physically transformed but, more importantly, with a clearer understanding of her own worth. The gates opened automatically, and the car proceeded up the long driveway. Aisha could see Marcus's car parked out front, confirming he was home waiting for her. Taking a deep breath, she thanked the driver and stepped out of the car. The front door opened before she reached it. Marcus stood there, his expression changing from anxious anticipation to utter shock as he took in her appearance. "Aisha?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Is that really you?" She smiled, a confident smile that revealed none of her inner turmoil. "Hello, Marcus. May I come in?" He stepped aside wordlessly, his eyes never leaving her as she walked past him into the foyer of their home. The familiar surroundings felt strange now, as if she were seeing them through new eyes. "Where have you been?" Marcus finally managed to ask, closing the door behind them. "I've been out of my mind with worry. I called all our friends, I even filed a missing persons report with the police." This surprised Aisha. She hadn't expected him to go to such lengths. "I told you I needed some time," she said simply. "Time for what?" His eyes traveled over her transformed figure, disbelief written all over his face. "What happened to you? How is this even possible?" Aisha moved to the living room and took a seat on one of the elegant sofas, gesturing for Marcus to join her. He sat across from her, still staring in amazement. "I underwent a treatment," she explained calmly. "A medical procedure that reset my metabolism and restructured my body composition. It was experimental, expensive, and not without risks." "Why would you do something so dangerous?" There was genuine concern in his voice, which touched something in Aisha despite her resolve to remain emotionally detached. "Why do you think, Marcus?" she asked quietly. "You made it very clear that my appearance was the reason you wanted a divorce. You handed me those papers and told me I wasn't the woman you married anymore." Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. "Aisha, I don't know what to say. Looking at you now, it's like a miracle happened." "Not a miracle," she corrected him. "Science, determination, and a very hefty price tag." "You did this for me?" There was wonder in his voice, but also a hint of pride that made Aisha uncomfortable. "I did it for myself," she said firmly. "Yes, your rejection was the catalyst. But ultimately, I did this to reclaim my body and my confidence after years of pain and loss that you seem to have forgotten." Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I never forgot, Aisha. I didn't know how to handle it. The miscarriages, your depression, I felt helpless." "So you pulled away instead of supporting me," Aisha observed, keeping her voice level with effort. "And when my body changed as a result of that pain, you decided I wasn't worth loving anymore." "That's not fair," Marcus protested weakly. "Isn't it?" Aisha stood up, smoothing her dress. "The divorce papers are still on the dining room table where I left them. 5 days ago you told me your mind was made up. Is it still?" Marcus stood as well, moving toward her uncertainly. "Aisha, look at you. You're stunning. Of course I don't want a divorce now." His words landed like a slap, confirming what she had feared. It really was all about her appearance for him. "I see," she said quietly. "So if I hadn't undergone this transformation, you'd still want to end our marriage?" Marcus seemed to realize his mistake too late. "That's not what I meant. Seeing you like this reminds me of the woman I fell in love with. I was always that woman, Marcus. Even with the extra weight. My heart, my mind, my soul never changed. If you couldn't see that, maybe there was never anything real between us at all." She moved past him toward the stairs, needing some space to think. "Where are you going?" he called after her, panic edging into his voice. "To our bedroom. I need some time alone." "Aisha, please. Let's talk about this. You can't just disappear for 5 days, come back looking like this and then walk away again." She paused on the stairs, looking back at him. "I'll be down for dinner. We can talk then." I think we both need a little time to process everything. Upstairs in their bedroom, a room that had once been a sanctuary for both of them, Aisha sat at her vanity, studying her reflection. The physical transformation was undeniable, but what struck her most was the change in her eyes. They were clearer now, more focused, filled with a determination that had been missing for too long. The question was, what did she want that determination to achieve? Did she want to save her marriage to a man who valued her appearance over everything else? Or was it time to walk away and start fresh? As she contemplated these questions, Aisha realized she wasn't as heartbroken as she had expected to be. Marcus's reaction had disappointed her, yes, but it hadn't devastated her. Perhaps a part of her had always known the truth about their relationship, that it was built on shallower foundations than she had believed. But still, 7 years was a long time. The memories they had created together weren't all bad. There had been genuine love between them once. Could that love be rekindled, or had it been extinguished for good? Dinner would tell the tale, Aisha decided. She would give Marcus one last chance to prove there was more to his love than physical attraction. And if he failed that test, well, the divorce papers were still waiting downstairs. Dinner was a tense affair. Aisha had changed into another of the new outfits provided by Dr. Patel, sleek black pants and a silky emerald blouse that complemented her complexion perfectly. Marcus had made an effort as well, putting on one of his more expensive suits and opening a bottle of the champagne they had been saving for a special occasion. "You look amazing," he said as she entered the dining room. "I still can't believe this transformation." "Thank you," Aisha replied simply, taking her seat at the opposite end of the long table, a distance that felt symbolic of the gulf between them. Marcus had ordered from their favorite restaurant, an upscale Italian place they had frequented in happier times. The gesture was clearly meant to be romantic, a reminder of better days. As they began to eat, Marcus couldn't seem to stop staring at her. "Will you tell me about this treatment?" he asked finally. "How is something like this even possible?" Aisha gave him a brief explanation of Dr. Patel's revolutionary procedure, downplaying the risks she had taken but emphasizing the physical and emotional toll of the process. "It sounds dangerous," Marcus frowned. "You should have told me what you were planning. I would have tried to talk you out of it." "That's exactly why I didn't tell you," Aisha said. "This was my decision to make. My body, my choice." Marcus nodded slowly. "I understand. And I have to admit, the results are spectacular." His eyes roamed over her appreciatively, a hint of desire evident in his gaze. Aisha felt uncomfortable under his scrutiny. There was something possessive in the way he looked at her now, as if her transformed body was a prize he had won rather than the result of her own courage and determination. "Marcus," she said, putting down her fork, "we need to talk about the divorce papers." His expression immediately changed, growing serious. "I don't want a divorce anymore, Aisha. Seeing you like this, it's changed everything." "Has it?" she asked quietly. "Or has it just changed what you see when you look at me?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, would you still want a divorce if I hadn't transformed? If I came back looking exactly the same as when I left?" Marcus hesitated just long enough for Aisha to have her answer. "I thought so," she said sadly. "That's not fair," he protested. "You can't ask me to ignore such an obvious change. You're beautiful again, Aisha. Of course that affects how I feel." "Again?" She raised an eyebrow. "So I wasn't beautiful before?" Marcus backtracked quickly. "That's not what I meant. Of course you were still beautiful, but not beautiful enough for you to want to stay married to me," Aisha finished for him. "You're twisting my words," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "Look, I'm trying here. I'm telling you I want our marriage to work. Isn't that what you wanted?" Aisha considered his question carefully. "When I left 5 days ago, yes, that's what I thought I wanted. To save our marriage at any cost. But now I'm not so sure." "What changed?" "I changed, Marcus. And I don't just mean physically. These past 5 days gave me time to think about what I really want, what I deserve in a relationship. And I'm not convinced anymore that our marriage is worth saving." Marcus looked genuinely shocked. "You can't mean that. We've been together for 7 years, Aisha. We've built a life together. Are you really willing to throw all of that away?" "That's ironic coming from the man who handed me divorce papers less than a week ago," she pointed out. "I made a mistake," he admitted, his voice softening. "I was unhappy and I blamed you for it. The weight gain was just an easy target. The truth is I've been struggling with my own issues, pressure at work, the disappointment of the miscarriages, my own fears about growing older." This was the first time Marcus had spoken so openly about his feelings in years. Despite her resolve to remain emotionally detached, Aisha found herself listening carefully. "Go on," she said when he paused. "I know I haven't been the husband you deserved," he continued. "After the second miscarriage, I pulled away when I should have been supporting you. I was afraid of failing you again, of not being able to give you the family we both wanted. And then when you started gaining weight, it was easier to focus on that than to face my own inadequacies." Aisha's heart softened slightly at his words. There was genuine remorse in his voice, a vulnerability she hadn't seen in him for a long time. "I appreciate your honesty," she said. "But it doesn't change the fact that you were ready to end our marriage based on something as superficial as my appearance." "I know," Marcus acknowledged. "And I'm ashamed of that now. But Aisha, seeing you transformed like this, it's like a second chance for both of us. A fresh start. Can't we at least try?" Aisha considered his words carefully. Was there still something worth salvaging here? Or was she just clinging to the past, to the memory of what they had once shared? "I need time to think," she said finally. "This isn't a decision I can make tonight." Marcus nodded, clearly disappointed but trying not to show it. "Of course. Take all the time you need." They finished their meal in silence, the tension between them palpable. When they were done, Aisha stood to leave. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight," she said. "I still need some space." Marcus looked like he wanted to object but thought better of it. "Whatever you need. Just don't disappear again, please. I couldn't bear not knowing where you were or if you were safe." There was genuine emotion in his voice, a reminder that despite everything, there was still some connection between them. Aisha nodded before leaving the dining room, her thoughts in turmoil. In the guest bedroom, Aisha changed into a nightgown and sat on the edge of the bed, weighing her options. Marcus seemed genuinely remorseful, and his explanation about his own struggles made sense. But was it enough to rebuild what had been broken between them? Or was she setting herself up for more heartbreak down the line? When age, illness, or simply the natural changes of life affected her appearance again? As she pondered these questions, Aisha realized that the decision before her was about much more than her marriage to Marcus. It was about the kind of life she wanted to build for herself going forward, and the kind of love she deserved to have. With that thought in mind, she finally lay down and closed her eyes, hoping that morning would bring the clarity she sought. Aisha woke early the next morning, the sun just beginning to filter through the curtains of the guest room. For a moment she lay still, allowing herself to feel the new reality of her transformed body, the lightness, the strength, the absence of aches and pains that had accompanied her extra weight. But physical comfort was only part of the equation. The bigger question still loomed: what would she do about her marriage? Rising from bed, she moved to the window and looked out over the expansive grounds of their Bel Air estate. Everything she saw represented the life she and Marcus had built together. A life of privilege and luxury that many would envy. Walking away from it wouldn't be easy. But staying for the wrong reasons would be worse. Aisha decided she needed neutral ground to think clearly. Dressing in some of her new clothes, jeans that fit her perfectly and a simple white blouse, she left the house quietly. Marcus was probably still asleep. He had always been a late riser, especially on weekends. She took her own car, a sleek silver Mercedes, and drove to a small beachside cafe in Santa Monica that had always been one of her favorite spots for reflection. It was early enough that the place was nearly empty, allowing her to secure a table on the patio overlooking the ocean. As she sipped her coffee and watched the waves rolling in, Aisha thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The painful miscarriages that had derailed their plans for a family. The depression that had followed, leading to her weight gain. Marcus's growing coldness and eventual rejection. And then the radical transformation she had undergone, not just physically but emotionally and mentally as well. The truth was, the woman sitting at this cafe table wasn't the same person who had received those divorce papers a week ago. That woman had been desperate to save her marriage at any cost. This woman was asking if the marriage was worth saving at all. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Where are you?" "Woke up and you were gone." She replied simply, "Needed to think." "At the beach. Back later." His response came quickly. "Can I join you?" "Please." Aisha hesitated. Part of her wanted solitude to sort through her thoughts. But another part recognized that any decision about their marriage should include actual conversation with her husband. "Santa Monica Beach Cafe," she texted back. "I'll be here for a while." While waiting for Marcus to arrive, Aisha ordered breakfast and continued her contemplation. She made a mental list of pros and cons, not just about staying with Marcus, but about what she wanted for the next chapter of her life. If she left him, she would be starting over at 35. It wasn't too late to build a new life, perhaps even find someone who would love her unconditionally. She had her own money, a successful career she had put on hold during her depression, and a renewed sense of self-worth. If she stayed, there was the comfort of familiarity, the history they shared, and the possibility that Marcus's contrition was genuine, that they could rebuild something stronger than before. She was still weighing these options when she spotted Marcus walking toward her across the patio. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept well, but had made an effort with his appearance. He was wearing casual clothes, unusual for him on any day, and had a nervous energy about him that she rarely saw in the typically confident businessman. "Thank you for letting me join you," he said as he took the seat across from her. Aisha nodded. "I thought we should talk." "Before you say anything," Marcus began quickly, "I want you to know that I spent most of the night thinking about everything. About us. About the mistakes I've made." "And what conclusions did you reach?" Aisha asked, keeping her tone neutral. Marcus took a deep breath. "That I've been a fool. That I let superficial things become more important than what really matters. That I failed you when you needed me most." Aisha studied him carefully. His words sounded rehearsed but sincere. "The truth is," he continued, "I was scared. After the second miscarriage, seeing you in so much pain, I didn't know how to help you. So I retreated into work, into the parts of my life I could control. And as you changed, as your depression deepened and your appearance altered, it was easier to focus on that than to face my own inadequacies as a husband." "You never talked to me about any of this," Aisha said quietly. "I know. Communication has never been my strong suit. But I want to do better, Aisha. I want a second chance to be the husband you deserve." The waitress came by to take Marcus's order, providing a momentary pause in their intense conversation. When she left, Aisha spoke. "Marcus, I appreciate what you're saying. But I need to know, is this just about my new appearance? Are you only saying these things because I look different now?" He reached across the table, tentatively taking her hand. "I won't lie to you. Seeing you transformed like this was a shock, a beautiful shock. It reminded me of the woman I fell in love with. But it also made me realize what I was about to throw away. Not just a beautiful wife, but a partner who has stood by me through everything, who has shown more strength and courage than I ever have." Aisha didn't pull her hand away, but she wasn't entirely convinced. "And what happens when I'm no longer young and beautiful? When age affects this new body just as surely as it would have the old one? Then I'll still love you," Marcus said firmly. "Because this past week has taught me that love isn't about appearance. It's about connection, history, shared dreams." "Pretty words," Aisha observed. "But your actions told a different story when you handed me those divorce papers." Marcus winced. "I deserve that. And I know words aren't enough. I need to prove to you that I've changed, that I've learned from my mistakes. All I'm asking for is the chance to do that." Aisha gently withdrew her hand from his. "I need more time, Marcus. This isn't a decision I can make over breakfast." "Of course," he agreed quickly. "Take all the time you need. But, will you come home while you're thinking about it? The house feels empty without you." After a moment's consideration, Aisha nodded. "I'll come home. But I'm not making any promises beyond that." Relief washed over Marcus's face. "That's all I'm asking for right now." They finished their breakfast with lighter conversation, carefully avoiding the heavy topics that still hung between them. As they walked back to their respective cars, Marcus hesitated. "Aisha? Regardless of what you decide, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. What you did, undergoing that treatment, it took incredible courage. Whether you choose to stay with me or not, I admire your strength." The words touched her more deeply than she had expected. Perhaps there was still something there worth fighting for after all. The next few days established a new rhythm in the Reynolds household. Aisha and Marcus moved carefully around each other, polite but cautious, both aware of the weight of the decision that hung in the balance. Marcus made efforts that surprised Aisha. He came home early from work each evening. He suggested they cook dinner together rather than ordering in as they had grown accustomed to doing. He asked questions about her day and actually listened to the answers. He didn't pressure her about her decision but made it clear through small gestures that he was hoping for reconciliation. For her part, Aisha found herself observing Marcus with new eyes. Without the cloud of depression and self-doubt that had colored her perception for so long, she could see both his genuine attempts to change and the ingrained patterns that might be harder to break. She also spent time reconnecting with herself. She called her old boss at the event planning company where she had worked before her depression had forced her to take a leave of absence. They met for lunch, and to Aisha's delight, she was offered her position back whenever she was ready. Having that option, financial independence, a career of her own, gave Aisha a sense of security she had been missing. Whatever she decided about her marriage, she would be making the choice from a position of strength, not necessity. On the 5th day after her return home, Aisha made an appointment with Dr. Patel for a follow-up checkup. The doctor was pleased with her physical condition but more interested in her emotional state. "Have you made a decision about your marriage?" Dr. Patel asked gently as they sat in her office after the examination. "Not yet," Aisha admitted. "Marcus seems genuinely remorseful. He's making an effort to change, to be more attentive and supportive." "But you're still hesitant," the doctor observed. Aisha nodded. "I keep wondering if it's just because of how I look now. If the only reason he wants to stay married is because I'm physically attractive to him again." "Have you asked him that directly?" "I have. He denies it, of course. Says this past week made him realize what he was about to lose, that it was a wake-up call." Dr. Patel considered this. "People can change, Mrs. Reynolds. Not easily and not always permanently, but it does happen. Especially when they've had a significant shock to their system, like nearly losing someone they love." "So you think I should give him another chance?" Aisha asked, genuinely curious about the doctor's opinion. "I think that's entirely your decision," Dr. Patel replied carefully. "But I would suggest asking yourself a simple question. Does staying with Marcus make you happy? Not will it make you happy someday if he changes, but does it make you happy now, in this moment?" It was a powerful question, one that stayed with Aisha as she drove home from the appointment. Did Marcus make her happy? Had he ever truly made her happy, or had she just been in love with the idea of him, with the life they represented together? She arrived home to find Marcus in the kitchen, apparently attempting to cook dinner himself, something she had never seen him do in all their years together. "What are you doing?" she asked, unable to keep the amusement from her voice as she watched him struggling with a recipe. He looked up, slightly embarrassed. "Trying to make that pasta dish you love. The one with the sun-dried tomatoes and spinach. It's not going quite as planned." "I can see that," Aisha laughed, moving to stand beside him. The kitchen was a mess, but his effort was touching. "Here, let me help you." Together, they salvaged the meal, working side by side in an easy rhythm that reminded Aisha of their early days together. There was a simplicity to the moment, a genuine connection that couldn't be faked. As they sat down to eat, Marcus seemed nervous, playing with his food more than eating it. "Is something wrong?" Aisha asked finally. He looked up, his blue eyes serious. "I found something today that I thought you should see." From his pocket, he pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to her. Aisha opened it with curiosity that quickly turned to emotion as she realized what she was looking at. It was a letter from a fertility specialist, confirming an appointment for Marcus for the following week. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been doing some research," Marcus explained, his own voice thick with emotion. "There are new treatments available now, options we didn't have before. I know how much having a family means to you, to us." Aisha stared at the letter, her vision blurring with unshed tears. "You did this without even knowing if I'm staying?" Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand. "I did it because regardless of what you decide, I need to face my fears. The miscarriages, I never dealt with that grief properly. I just buried it and then blamed you when you couldn't do the same. This is me trying to be the man I should have been all along." In that moment, something shifted inside Aisha. The gesture wasn't just about trying to win her back. It was about Marcus confronting his own demons, taking responsibility in a way he never had before. "Marcus," she began, her decision suddenly crystal clear. He stopped her with a gentle squeeze of her hand. "Before you say anything, I want you to know that this isn't conditional. If you decide to leave, I'll understand. I'll give you the divorce with no contest, plus whatever settlement you want. I just needed you to see that I'm trying to change, not just for you but for myself." Aisha looked at the man across from her, really looked at him. Behind the handsome face and the successful exterior, she saw vulnerability, humility, and genuine regret. She saw the man she had fallen in love with years ago, before success and stress had hardened him. And she made her choice. 3 months later, Aisha stood in front of the full-length mirror in their bedroom, adjusting the elegant blue dress she had chosen for the evening. Her transformed body had maintained its new form beautifully, thanks to the regimen Dr. Patel had prescribed and Aisha's own commitment to a healthier lifestyle. But the physical transformation was only part of the story. The past 3 months had seen a transformation in her marriage as well, one even more remarkable than what had happened to her body. After their conversation over that home-cooked dinner, Aisha had decided to give their marriage another chance. Not because of Marcus's grand gesture with the fertility specialist, though that had certainly influenced her decision, but because she had seen genuine change in him, a willingness to confront his flaws and work on becoming a better partner. The divorce papers had been torn up in a ceremonial moment that had brought tears to both their eyes. In their place, they had drafted what Marcus jokingly called a marriage renewal contract. A list of commitments they both made to ensure their relationship would be stronger going forward. Marcus had kept his appointment with the fertility specialist, and Aisha had joined him. Together they had learned about new options, new treatments that might help them achieve the family they had always wanted. But they had also discussed adoption as a possibility, opening their hearts to different ways of creating the family they dreamed of. More importantly, they had begun therapy, both individually and as a couple. Marcus had finally confronted the grief and fear that had led him to withdraw after their miscarriages. Aisha had worked through her own trauma and the lingering insecurities about her worth that had persisted even after her physical transformation. It hadn't been easy. There had been difficult conversations, painful revelations, moments when Aisha had questioned her decision to stay. But there had also been genuine connection, renewed intimacy, and a deepening understanding that had made their bond stronger than it had ever been. "You look beautiful," Marcus said, coming up behind her in the mirror. He wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. Aisha smiled at their reflection. "So do you." He was dressed in a tailored suit for their dinner reservation, a celebration of his birthday and, unofficially, of the new chapter in their marriage. "3 months ago I almost lost you," Marcus said quietly, his eyes meeting hers in the mirror. "I don't think I'll ever stop being grateful for the second chance you gave me." Aisha turned in his arms to face him directly. "We gave each other a second chance," she corrected him. "And we're both doing the work to make sure we deserve it." He nodded, leaning down to kiss her softly. "I love you, Aisha. Not because of how you look, though you are breathtaking, but because of who you are. Your strength, your compassion, your willingness to fight for what matters." "I love you too," she replied, and meant it with her whole heart. The man before her wasn't perfect, neither of them was, but he was trying, really trying, to be the partner she deserved. As they drove to the restaurant, Aisha thought about the journey they had been through. The transformation that had begun with her body had extended to her marriage, her career, she had returned to event planning part-time, and her sense of self. The woman who had once held divorce papers in trembling hands, devastated by rejection, was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her own worth, who had chosen to stay in her marriage not out of desperation but from a position of strength and clear-eyed love. At dinner, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight, Marcus raised his glass in a toast. "To new beginnings," he said, his eyes shining with emotion. "To new beginnings," Aisha echoed, clinking her glass against his. Later that night, as they walked along the beach near their home, shoes in hand and the moonlight illuminating their path, Marcus stopped suddenly. "I've been wanting to give you something," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box and Aisha's heart skipped a beat. When he opened it, she gasped at the sight of a stunning diamond ring, not her original wedding set, but something new and different. "This isn't to replace what we had," Marcus explained, taking the ring from its box. "It's to symbolize what we have now, something new that we've built together, something stronger and more meaningful than before." Tears filled Aisha's eyes as he slipped the ring onto her right hand, not replacing her wedding band but complementing it. "It's perfect," she whispered, admiring the way the diamond caught the moonlight. Marcus pulled her close, his arms strong and secure around her. "Not as perfect as you," he said softly. "And I don't just mean on the outside." Aisha smiled up at him, knowing that his words were true. The physical transformation she had undergone had been remarkable, but it was the internal transformation of both of them that had saved their marriage and opened the door to a future brighter than either of them had imagined possible. As they continued their moonlit walk, hand in hand, Aisha felt a sense of peace and rightness that had been missing for far too long. Whatever challenges lay ahead, and there would surely be many, they would face them together, stronger for having nearly lost each other and wise enough now to cherish what they had found again. In the end, it wasn't about weight or appearance or conforming to someone else's ideals. It was about seeing each other clearly, loving deeply, and choosing each other every day. It was about transformation, not just of the body but of the heart and soul as well. And as the waves washed gently against the shore, erasing their footprints in the sand, Aisha and Marcus walked forward into their new beginning, side by side, hand in hand, facing the future together. 2 years had passed since that moonlit night on the beach when Marcus had given Aisha the new ring, symbolizing their renewed commitment to each other. In that time, their marriage had continued to strengthen, built on a foundation of honest communication, mutual respect, and unconditional love. After extensive consultations with fertility specialists and several rounds of treatments, they had received the news they had once thought impossible. Aisha was pregnant. And not just with one baby but 3. After 32 weeks, on a bright spring morning, Aisha lay in a private room at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, exhausted but radiant with joy. Marcus sat beside her bed, cradling one of their newborn daughters in his arms while looking in wonder at the other two, nestled together in a hospital bassinet. "I still can't believe it," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. 3 perfect little miracles. Aisha smiled tiredly. The delivery had been challenging, a planned C-section that had taken longer than expected due to complications. But the moment she had heard the first cry, followed by 2 more, all the pain and struggle had been worth it. "They need names," she reminded him softly. They had discussed options but had decided to wait until they met their children before making final decisions. Marcus looked down at the tiny infant in his arms, her skin a beautiful blend of his fairness and Aisha's richer tone, her tiny fingers wrapped around one of his. "What about Zara for this little one?" he suggested. "It means princess or radiance, and she definitely has both." "Zara," Aisha repeated, testing the name. "I love it." "And for her sisters?" Marcus moved carefully to the bassinet, still cradling Zara. "This one," he said, gently touching the cheek of the second baby, who was slightly smaller than her siblings, "could be Maya. It means dream or illusion, which is what our life feels like right now, a beautiful dream we never thought would come true." "Maya," Aisha agreed, feeling tears of joy well in her eyes. "And the third?" They both looked at the remaining baby, who chose that moment to open her eyes, revealing the same deep brown shade as Aisha's. "Sophia," Aisha said with certainty. "It means wisdom, and I think we've learned enough of that on our journey to deserve a reminder." "Zara, Maya, and Sophia Reynolds," Marcus said, testing the names together. "Perfect names for perfect daughters." A nurse entered the room, smiling at the tableau of new parenthood before her. "How are we doing in here?" she asked cheerfully. "Wonderful," Aisha replied, her eyes never leaving her family. "Would you like to try feeding them now?" the nurse asked. "We can try one at a time first." As Aisha prepared for her first attempt at breastfeeding, Marcus gently placed Zara in her arms, then sat on the edge of the bed, his arm supporting Aisha's back. "I never thought we'd be here," he admitted quietly as the nurse helped position the baby. "After the miscarriages I lost hope. I'm sorry I didn't believe enough for both of us back then." "We're here now," Aisha said simply, gasping softly as Zara latched successfully. "That's what matters." The nurse discreetly left them alone once she was sure Aisha was managing well, promising to return soon to help with the other babies. In the quiet of the hospital room, surrounded by the new lives they had created together, Aisha and Marcus shared a look of pure love and gratitude. The journey that had brought them to this moment had been filled with pain, loss, and near disaster, but also with growth, healing, and rediscovered love. "Thank you," Marcus whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to Aisha's forehead. "For what?" "For not giving up on us. For giving me a second chance. For these beautiful daughters. For everything." Aisha smiled, looking from her husband to her newborn child and then to the 2 waiting in the bassinet. "We gave each other a second chance," she reminded him. "And look what we've created because of it." As if on cue, Maya began to fuss in the bassinet, followed quickly by Sophia. Marcus laughed softly. "I think they're feeling left out." "Well, they'll have to learn to take turns," Aisha said with a smile. "We have enough love for all 3 but I only have 2 arms." "That's what I'm here for," Marcus said, carefully lifting Maya from the bassinet. "We're partners in this just like in everything else." As the morning sun filled the room with golden light, the Reynolds family began their newest chapter. Not just Marcus and Aisha anymore, but a family of 5, bound by love, strengthened by struggle, and blessed beyond measure. The weight of the past had been lifted, replaced by the delightful weight of 3 tiny bodies, Zara, Maya, and Sophia. 3 perfect miracles that embodied the love that had survived, transformed, and ultimately flourished against all odds.